Man, I just want to marvel a little bit. Look how clean this quest log is getting. There's these two up here for the main story. This for when we get back into there. And then this is all I have left over. There's the tasks down here, which are a bit more sloppy because they're bounties and stuff, but also a lot of stuff I don't care to do at all. And it's just so much text that I can't hide of completed stuff. So we have Battle of Yenwood Field is still waiting to be done at some point. Probably after I get back. Remember when I thought that was going to be like a timely thing? But the steps that they encourage you to take to prepare for it are incredibly time consuming. So at this point that was like half the playthrough ago, wasn't it? Was when I first was thinking about doing other stuff. Yeah. That came up before the first White March, and that was like episode, that was in like the 40s, I want to say. We're in like, and we're like in the 80s or something. Ah. It's probably good, like I definitely think like, wow, it's a good thing I did 1 hour episodes, because otherwise, I think like, weirdly this playthrough has felt short somehow, even though it's been like 3 months already. But I just think about the fact that like if this was half-an-hour episodes, not only would it be really frustrating how little happens in each episode, but that would be 2/3 of a year. Because if this is going to be a 100 episode-ish playthrough, then it would have been a 200 episode-ish playthrough. And that's, like, holy shit, staggering. Whereas I might actually get to Disco Elysium sometime this month. As opposed to, mid-2020. Jesus. So the main things... So this itself, this is a companion quest, but it's tied to the last location I'm going to go to. This is the dragon loose end from last time. We're much further in the game, so I can probably deal with that now. Either by defeating the dragon, or maybe even having new dialogue available because it's later in the campaign. Then we have this loose end. Moneha has a... somewhere has a Abbey of the Fallen Moon, which I have not even begun to find. Then Yenwood Field. But the moment I get to the White March Part 2, this might blow it out with a bunch of side quests, I imagine. So we'll see about that. But for now, let's take a look around this office that I've carved my way into. This book burns your hands when you touch it. The clay tablet is ancient, and most of the symbols inscribed upon it are indecipherable. A lot of burning hand books. That's concerning. Hello. Ooh. A bunch of scrolls and crafting materials. Isn't that interesting? The rich fabric is as smooth as lambskin and softer than most beds. The shelves of this bookcase overflow with books, loose pages, and miscellaneous artifacts. Many of the spines you can see are scrawled with indecipherable glyphs, and more are completely blank. Probably takes hours to search through here. Do it. You find an old book on one of the top shelves. It's covered in dust, and you almost missed it. But as you brush it off and flip through the pages, you recognize it as an early copy of the Eroksian calendar, Lore 10. Hours of searching leave your back aching and your eyes sore. You don't find anything of value. But you get the rare item in my inventory. Which inventory? Yeah. Put them, all the ones I find here, out of curiosity. The shelves of the bookcase overflow with books, loose pages, and miscellaneous artifacts. Many of the spines you can see are scrawled with indecipherable glyphs and more completely blank, yet, so it'll take hours to search. You find a bag in a pile at the bottom of the shelf. It rips and spills out gems into your hand as you pick it up. That's all we get. 20 bloodstones. You really don't find what you'd expect from bookshelves. Another one? Another one. That's peculiar to find another one of. The Moons of Aora. The brushed red figures on this scroll look as though they were written in blood. The book contains a list of names, most of which are crossed off. You recognize the four names which haven't been touched yet. Sable, Peldon, Tanos, and Uariki. So that entire book is all of the past apprentices that he's burned through. As you draw close, the words of this scroll fade and disappear. That's spooky. It's hiding its information from me. Actively. Where I've already read the Baratheon book, haven't I? It's hard to keep track of these things. Definitely read that. I don't know, it's hard to remember. Scripture bounces off me pretty fast. So it can be hard to remember which stuff I've already read before. Because it sounds relatively similar.
I shall do as you ask. What you ask is done.
Ow! Ouchies. I think that failed to hit me last time, like I got stuck. Alright, I need to break into these again, because we're not in that timeline right now, I suppose. I lost track, actually.
Nothing is closed to the perceptive mind. What you ask is done.
Alright, everyone back. Let Tank Boy go in and risk this.
Hey.
Ouchie! No! Scary! Why are you here, Palgina? Go away.
Hey.
Storm of Holy Fire. I mean, that looked pretty cool.
Not to alarm you, but I'm slowly dying of poison.
Ah, you're fine. We got out of the cloud, so it's basically over now. Lots of gems, primarily. Be gone, cloud of the last tower. Summon an Ager Beetle once per rest. Some peculiar inclusions. I could just, like, have an inventory full of summon items on this character, which would be kind of funny. In case of emergency, break glass. I'm not super into that shield.
Hey.
But hey,
Yeah.
we fought for all that, so before we leave, why not read the rare book that we got from it? I'm curious about that. The Orochian Calendar. Rare. Value 2000 ZP. I don't think, yeah, they usually don't have that kind of value. This ancient copy is likely one of the oldest books in the world and invaluable to any collectors of rare manuscripts. Ani Orochio, the New Year. While only 150 years old and of Valian origin as well, the Orochian calendar is currently used throughout most of the Deerwood and the surrounding areas. While the Deerwood was using the Adirian calendar until recently, they gave it up in favor of the Orochian calendar. The transition was easy to get people to make because the Adirian calendar was hopelessly inaccurate. Orochio calculated that it takes the planet approximately 334 days to orbit the sun, so he took the 9 months from the Adirian calendar and broke them into 16 months of 20 days each, with each season consisting of 4 months. The lengths of each month corresponds to how long it takes Belafa, one of our moons, to circle the planet. Not part of either season. Nope. After I scrolled, I ended up in the wrong spot. At the end of each season, 3 days, not part of either season, are set aside for people to celebrate the transitions. Lastly, the final 2 days of the year, New Year and Mid-Year, are used to observe the beginning and midpoint of the year. To prevent any confusion for the transition from the old calendar to the new, Orochio kept the year the same. So although the calendar has only been in existence for 150 years, it is currently 2823 AI, Anni Orochio. Orochio gave the months Valian names, but in the Deerwood and surrounding areas they call them by their translated names. The year is broken down the following way. New Year, a day to celebrate the arrival of the new year. Of all the holidays, this one is celebrated by the most people around the Deerwood and Valian republics. Each new year is greeted with a fervent zeal to begin things anew and start with a fresh slate. The winter months, 2 at the beginning of the year and 2 at the end. Deep winter, Foniverno. Late winter, Tariverno. Spring dawn, 3 days. In prima, used to celebrate the transition of the world, rebirth, and spring. Euthasian festivals are especially prevalent in this time, or were prior to the Saints' War. Spring months, early spring is pre-prima, mid-spring is maj-prima, deep spring is fon-prima, and late spring is ta-prima. Summer rising, 3 days. Inestu, a period of transition from birth to growth. Many ceremonies designed to usher children into adulthood take place during summer rising. Summer months in mid-year. Early summer, Priestu. Midsummer, Majestu. The mid-year. A day of reflection and introspection. The year is half over. People who made promises on New Year use mid-year to assess their progress and renew their oaths. Deep summer, Fonestu. Late summer, Terestu. Autumn falling, 3 days. In autumn. Harvest celebrations happen during autumn falling if the crops were particularly bountiful. If harvest was small, supplication is given to the gods asking for a better harvest the following year. Autumn months. Early autumn, pre-autumn. Mid-autumn, maj-autumn. Deep autumn, fon-autumn. Late autumn, tar-autumn. Winter dusk, 3 days. In inverno. In inverno. Hey, I nailed it, I think. Winter dusk is filled with celebrations of life and vigils for the dead. The world is returning to sleep. Plants die, and those still alive raise a toast to another year. Winter months. Early winter. Pre-inverno. And midwinter. Mas-inverno. Those were pronounced as Mas? Oh no, I got it all wrong. We gotta start over now. What a tragedy. Euthasian. I definitely recognize the name of that one. Wait. Yeah, there's the book about Pongrim's theorems. Yeah, that came up when we were in Defiance Bay. Whereas I have no idea if Moons of Eora has been found before. Pretty sure I've read Baratheon scripture by now. Especially during the part where we were in an entire building about those topics. Looking for one with a crest. I only see these 3. Oh. Book of Verses. Yeah, no Moons of Eora anywhere. I keep finding more copies of the daily affirmations of focus and efficiency, but no copies of Deerwood Part 3. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. This is fine. It's fine. I should not have rested yet. I shouldn't have rested yet because this was coming up. Oops, expires in 7 hours. The Crossed Eye. In the court of bowing ashes stands a towering Aedra statue intertwined with living trees. Dating back to the Ingwithans, it is believed to represent an Orlan ruler that lost empire. Of that lost empire. Though the natural progress of time has done some damage to it, the Glenfathans remember one act of vandalism against it from the early colonial days, during the chaos of the Broken Stone War. Adir explorers ventured deep into Ire Glanfath, made their way to the court of bowing ashes, and scaled the statue to break loose a single eye. Large as Namawa's head, and made of pure Adra Ban, most of the members of the band were captured and killed by the Glenfathans, but the eye was never recovered. In recent years, rumors have spread through the Eastern Reach that a new owner of the eye has been attempting to sell it through covert markets. The Anamfatha of at least 3 tribes would reward anyone who recovered it. Who would we like to send on a tracking mission? Durance doesn't care about these things. Honestly, Kana's kind of my go-to relic hunter, based on his past. In Stalwart, I encountered an indentured servant who had resorted to lethal measures in order to escape his servitude. I chose to imprison him in Cadnua rather than leave him to the slave catchers. A distant relative of Aleph, has arrived at the stronghold, requesting that he be freed in exchange for coin. Every single message says that brigands nearly attacked, but then patrols intervened. Accept money. Goodbye. There we go. Fuck Grammarfell. But let's say that I left done his time. It's hard to judge. I honestly don't even know how long he's been in prison. But I imprisoned him in the first half of the playthrough at least. And we're nearing the end. I don't know. It's hard to say how long somebody should be imprisoned. In modern days, there's the vague, implicit concept that the very act of imprisonment is supposed to be some form of rehabilitation. And punishment, but also rehabilitation. You're supposed to be turning them in... They're supposed to be able to return to society as a reformed person who won't do the thing again. Otherwise, if that's not your goal, the only sentences should be death or life in prison. If you're releasing people, the very premise of releasing them is based on the idea that their punishment or atonement has in some way taught them to stop just repeating the same thing that they did when they got there in the first place. Either because of fear of punishment or because of genuine rehabilitation. Efforts vary greatly from country to country. The United States drops the ball super hard. We don't really try, for the most part. We're very vindictive with our punishments and mostly just see it as a way of shitting on whoever does it. And even when they get out, they mostly don't have rights because they basically have to deal with that permanent scar on their life forever, which is has a snowballing effect that tends to make them worse and worse over time. It's not a very thought out system, honestly. Your party is considered high level for the content in the White March Part 2. If you would like, the critical path can be increased in difficulty to give you more of a challenge. The rewards you receive will be the same. Yep, so same as before. It's just, do you want to play the high level version that's presumably scaled in some way? Which, because like this is their way of eventually just having to deal with the fact that this game is so wide open and so non-linear and so full of optional content that is like the vast majority of the content. Like they have to have scaling options eventually, or basically the game will always be too hard for the first half and too easy for the second half if they made any attempt at scaling, or I mean any attempt at a flat balancing, because the first half of the game will be full of you playing stuff too early, and the second half of the game will be full of you playing stuff too late, inevitably. And we're back. Oh, took one step. I was like,
we wait, the enemy grows stronger.
And you'd send more of us to die.
Well, I'm not gonna stand around. Are you?
You've done plenty, Darian.
hi guys, I'm back. Oh. You approach the source of the commotion and see a throng of villagers. They're arguing amongst themselves and hurling questions and demands at a lone figure perched above them. A young man stands on a spur of rock, his clenched fist held aloft. Steam rises from his wild hair and flushed face as he shouts to the gathering.
Been a week since our people left these gates. A week since the iron flail took them.
He paces the outcropping, his eyes burning. You see a few scattered nods in the crowd.
Yet we wait here behind our sturdy new walls, hiding in our rebuilt homes. We've done nothing.
He brings his fist into his palm with a sharp smack. The crowd erupts, bristling with pointed fingers and pointed words. One woman steps forward, her eyes lock on the young man.
Who are you to tell us how to defend our own? You ain't been here 2 months.
Several of the others grunt and hoot. You feel a shift in the crowd like a changing tide.
Hey, an angry mob. See? We're not so far from home.
And since I got here, I've been working alongside the rest of you. Don't start with that again.
A handful of others nod along with him, but they cringe and flinch as another villager joins the fray, shaking his finger at the young orator.
Well, it was your idea to send our people to that damned fort in the first place. If it weren't for you and the other leeches that come up with you, we wouldn't be in this mess.
The new accuser raises a chorus of furious cries. Darian raises his hand for calm, but the crowd's wrath is snowballing.
Enough. Enough.
Darian waves for calm. The crowd has worked itself into a frenzy. He scans the assembly, beads of sweat rolling from his temples. His eyes fall on you and he points.
You want to boot all the Outlanders from your town? Tell that to the hero of the White Forge.
Hey, it wasn't just me. This Watcher deserves at least a little credit.
No one seems to notice Adair. A dozen heads turn in your direction. The villagers recognize you, and their eyes widen with hope and reverence. Is this about that fort near the battery? He nods.
It's a small army from Raid Saris. They call themselves the Iron Flail.
At Darian's mention of the name, the rest of the crowd falls silent. The words trigger a sudden flashback to your dream of the mysterious army and the destruction of Cadnua. As the image fades, you see once more the vision of 100 eyes watching you, and something just beyond.
Showed up a few weeks after you opened the battery. Demanded we give him the White Forge.
He avoids your gaze, scraping his boot against a rock.
They're led by a Darek Sendamir. Comes from an old Raid Saren family. The rumor has it the man's half mad with visions. Claims one drove him here to take the White Forge.
They're not the only bloodsuckers around here.
The villager glares up at Darian, but most of his fellows are ignoring him by now. Darian raises his voice above the ruckus.
Our crew at the battery locked their doors and told the Iron Flail to go back to Raid Saris. Instead, they built a fort in the middle of the wood. So we sent a committee to reason with them. But that was a week ago. And we haven't seen our people since.
A low rumble ripples through the crowd. Darien hesitates.
That can only mean one thing.
He grimaces as the frightened, arguing crowd drowns him out once more. Can't you share the White Forge with the Red Surins? The villagers shout and squawk louder than ever.
After what they did to our neighbors?
Only thing they know how to do is start wars.
Please, everyone!
In the fragile silence that follows, the others turn and look at Darien.
Whatever our difference is, we've got to deal with the army at our gates.
He looks back at you.
You've done a lot for Stalwart already. Many of us wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you.
He breaks off, looking as if he'd like to stuff his words back into his mouth. After an uneasy pause, he swallows and continues.
What I mean is, if anyone could deal with an army, it's you.
Very well, I'll help you.
The Iron Flail cleared a patch of forest north of Durgan's battery, built their fort there. It'll be well guarded, so if you can get in without raising an alarm, you may have an easier time of it. The important thing is to deal with the commander. If you can get rid of him, the rest of the soldiers will scatter.
I think I've dreamed about this army.
What exactly did you see?
He watches you with wide, wondering eyes. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Forget it. I need to get going.
Of course. We're just thankful this dream led you back. Anyway, we've got our work cut out for us here.
He gives the crowd a purposeful look, grumbling. They start to disperse.
While you're out, stop by the battery. Wangra and her team are still repairing the heavy cannons, but they've made a lot of progress elsewhere. Thought you might like to see how far it's come.
He shrugs. I wanted to ask you about something.
Haven't been here long, but I'll tell you what I can.
Tell me about the Iron Flail.
They heard about the White Forge and came running, just like a lot of us did. Only difference is, they brought siege weapons. As best anyone can tell, they're from the border region near Little Bend, one of the poorest parts of the country. For Raid Saris, well, that's saying something.
What brought you to Stalwart?
Work. I was a cobbler in New Yarma, but the city got more crowded every year. Rural types fleeing the legacy. A couple months ago, I heard Stalwart was offering land and opportunity to new settlers, so figured I'd give it a go out here. For a while, folks seemed glad to have some new blood, but that changed as more and more of us came.
There seems to be a lot of tension around town.
Before you opened Durgan's battery, people tell me Stalwart barely had enough warm bodies to keep the town running. A bunch of us came when we heard about the White Forge, but now, I think the old-timers would just as soon send us back.
He begins ticking items off on his fingers.
We take the best jobs, we don't pay our respects to Andra, we're overcrowding the town.
He shakes his head.
I get it. Stalwart's changing. Same thing happened in New Yarma when folk moved in from the countryside. But they can't keep blaming us for everything that goes wrong out here.
He sighs, and a steaming cloud escapes his lips.
I'm just hoping they'll calm down once the Iron Flail is gone.
That's all. Oh, what's happening? Oh, they're gone. Huh. So it seems fitting that I took a while to come back. Split this expansion over the course of 2 separate chunks of the campaign. This guy still wants to use the restroom, though. Because the implication is that this guy's new here, but he's been here for 2 months already. So in 2 months, he's been hanging out around here, and now he's like it'd be weird if I came right back after finishing the first half of the expansion, and then people have been here for 2 months. It's like, that timeline doesn't work. What is this, Yakuza? I grew up in Stalwart, but it feels like I hardly know the place now. Well, yeah, we got the forge going. I feel like one of my top priorities is to get to the inn, because I can switch out to the expansion characters, who otherwise don't get a lot of playtime.
Someone has to do something.
Piss off, Kern. I got enough problems.
Huh. That was a thing.
Back to warm your hand, Jay. What can I do for you? Top quality bear pellet.
Party management. Actually, make sure that inventory's... yeah. Put everything in Edair's inventory. How did these all end up here? Oh, because I was going to sell them because these are the dupes. Gotcha. I sorted through them between episodes a little bit.
Back to warm your hand. Top quality bear.
Do a little bit of vendoring. Doop doop. Doot 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 doot. Boop. Not a ton, but it's something. All right. Goodbye.
Farewell.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Watch your step.
All right. So you three, I can't get over the fact that it's pronounced wow. May wow watch your step. May wow 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 wow. All right. Ranged character. Melee, 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 melee. Okay, so let's pick another ranged character to bring along. That gives that leaves me with Grieving Mother, Sagani, Durance, and Aloth. I can honestly go all over the place. Still,
I shall.
Aloth's like a core character. You meet him right at the beginning of the game. It'd be kind of nice to see if they got more dialogue moments for him throughout this expansion, especially since he knows Edair. That's not what I meant to say. I mean, especially since he's the same voice actor as Edair. These two are the same voice actor. So if they got him back for the expansion, that means they got him back from the expansion because they same guy. They're both likely to have lines. Save changes. That's a slightly weird way to phrase that, but okay.
Aye?
Backline. Cause I made you a gun person, right? Yeah. In fact, let's get rid of this, because you'll try to switch to it when you get confused. Which, of course, this means now it's time for me to level up characters. What level are these guys? They're not that far off. We definitely slowed down in the second half of the game on leveling. So my top character is level 15. I believe that, I believe the second expansion brought the level cap to 16. So this is the final progress bar of our playthrough. Once this fills, we cap out on our levels. So these guys are level 12, 11, 12. So it'll take a little bit to get them there, but we'll get them there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right for the back line. Got it. Haven't got to use these characters for a bit. Alright, but I don't want to leave this dialogue dangling, so
Sure.
let's talk to these people that just talked here. Oh, this person's been singing. Please, someone has to do something. Piss off, Karn, we've got enough problems. Decades I've lived here. We've worked and drunk together, and not a one of them will lift a finger. This dwarf's face is damp and blotchy. His outburst seems to take something out of him. He sags, his lined features showing his exhaustion. I'm sorry. I've no heart for conversation. I'm sure someone in here will drink to your health. What happened? I've done something terrible, and I'm not sure I can fix things. This neighbor of mine, Hadi, we've never gotten on at the best of times. With this land dispute, losing half my property, things have gotten out of hand. Go on. I was drowning my sorrows here in the inn. There was a stranger, Keviston, obviously from out of town. We got to talking. He's all smiles. Says he's a paladin, that he'll sort Hattie out for me. Get my land back, if I give him the week's wages. I didn't know he was a bleak walker, a madman. I was half drunk. That Keviston meant he'd speak on my behalf, put a scare into Hattie, not kill him. So you got lucky. I tried to call him off. Once I realized. He laughed, said that doesn't happen. Please, you've got to help me. Nobody else here is willing to take him on, even for the coin I'm offering. I'll make sure Hadi and his family are safe. I can be a bleak walker? I don't remember even hearing of these guys before. Thank you. You're a good man, Yaskier. Hadi lives out east, in Whitestone Hollow. Please, hurry. I never meant for any of this to happen. That sounds like an emergency. Maybe we should run off and investigate that now. Villager, barely injured. Interesting. I'm not used to seeing damage notifications on these characters. At this point, I could do my approach to questing that I did previously when I was in Defiance Bay, because especially now, like, I've already explored the surrounding areas. Over time, we'll discover the new areas, but for the most part, I might check out one building at a time and then try to follow up on what people tell me about.
Something I can do for you? Halfrick's got me straightening the rooms, but I'll help you if I can.
You're alive because I killed the old lady instead. Although that's not really what I meant to do, but that's how it worked out. Fruit. Still, let's at least check out this building. Because otherwise, I'll lose my mind trying to remember where I left off. Nesta. Ugh. I thought I ordered ale. She might have brought me the dishwater by accident, she sighs. Or maybe on purpose, you can never tell. What brings you to Stalwart? I represent a group of investors from Defiance Bay who are attempting to establish a trade agreement with Stalwart. Before they're willing to commit to any agreement, they want to have the town assessed, make sure it's as prosperous as people are claiming. That's where I come in. She takes a long sip from her mug. What's your assessment of the town? There's certainly a lot of coin changing hands, but whether this is simply a short-lived boom or something that will persist long-term remains to be seen. And that's it. Not exactly a quest yet, but maybe they'll come up later. Katie.
Heard the big news. There really isn't anything you can't do, is there? This will do so much for Stalwart. You can see it in everyone's faces. We've got hope again.
Let's follow up for the previous expansion.
Hello, sir. Anything I can do for you?
Andred. Hey, you're back. Thought you were done with this place. We certainly thought you were. Turns out New Halemore's a bit of a piss heap. Well, that and Stalwart turned out to be not so bad after a while. Armies scuffling over the battery aside. Still playing games. You get to enjoying the simple things up here. Not that the practice has done him any good. I'll be going. Alright, so they're still playing Orland's Head, which is distressing.
Thanks again. I'll be gone just as soon as the weather clears.
I think these characters are just hanging out. She seems to have been sitting here for 2 months.
Back to warm your hands, eh? What can I do for...
Farewell.
Just had the thought of maybe I should acknowledge this Orland's Head game with an Orland in the party. Maybe I can get them to explain the rules to me. I've already read these before. All I can do is say I want to play Orland's Head, which I don't want to do in front of the Orland. Or in general, really.
What can I do?
I think I missed my chance, if there ever was dialogue.
Watch your step.
Alright, so everybody who was removed from the party has to have their yep, has to be reprogrammed.
Right here.
Zawa is ready.
Zawa is ready. If I don't reprogram them, then the next fight we get in, they'll just stand there until somebody hits them, which is not very good teamwork, as it turns out. Not great teamwork at all.
Lead the way.
Just trying to remember if she has any dialogue about what we're trying to follow up on, because we're trying to find her location. I don't think we have context for that yet, though. In time. And here's the gamblers. They might just be here so I can persistently be able to ask about gambling. Yep. We're probably about done there. Let's look into saving a family from being murdered. So, he and his neighbors are having a dispute. Can I talk to them? I think I already tried talking to him again, didn't I? See if I get more dialogue. Yeah. I lost my opportunity a little bit, I think. So, he and a neighbor are having a land dispute. And it sounds like he already lost some of his land. He's been bitter. And he accidentally hired someone to do a murder on them. Whoops. Not lean on them or intimidate them or any other tactic, but straight up just murder them. And there's no
So, you're back. What can I do for you?
And then there's no takesy backsies. This is the alcoholic, right? Read his soul. The snowy path peels away, and the brisk air gives way to the acrid stench of smoke. A dark cloud billows up from the remnants of a burning house, at the far edge of a rocky field. You're low to the ground, held in place, and above you the wind tugs embers back and forth like firebugs. The vision in your left eye...
Not so brave now, are you?
The vision in your left eye is clouded, such that the figure standing over you is a collection of rough smears of black, cast in silhouette by the fire. Not so brave now, are you? A dark shape swings towards your face, and the subsequent burst of agony jars you out of the memory and back into your own skin.
What? Did I spill something on myself?
Orfeld looks down at his clothing.
So, you're back. What can I do for you?
Questions?
Sure, ask away. Not sure what I can tell you, though. I haven't been here half as long as most.
Who are you?
Me? Well, I used to build houses. These days I do this and that. Get work at the fishery sometimes, mending nets. Right now I'm helping with the stockades. The ogres keep us busy. I'm from Aina's Rest originally. Not so far from your Cadnua, actually. A little ways east. Nice lake nearby. A little like the one here. I heard some business went down with Lord Radric. Might have ended up tithing to you instead if I were still there, my lord.
Rayfeld cracks a grin. What can you tell me about Stalwart?
Truth is, I couldn't care less about the town, or the mines. But I like the people. Hardy bunch, living up here in the cold. Shame most of them have packed up. Figure they deserve better. And, well, you've given them a chance at that. So, you know, thanks for what that's worth. Right. Anything else then?
Alright, let's follow up. What was the location the bad thing was happening in? Oh, it's a task. Bleak Oath. Patty's house. Heidi's house can be found to the east of Stalwart in Whitestone Hollow, close to the road. Ah. Was Whitestone Hollow an option before? We'll see how it goes. A little bit of a return to form to my previous approach to questing. I like it better narratively, although the back and forth can be kind of a bummer sometimes when a bunch of quests will send you to the same place. 12-hour trip. I probably should have rested up. Get us the tavern bonus. Although then the family would probably be dead by then. Even though they wouldn't be because of video games, but you know what I mean. It's the principle of the thing, somewhat. I forgot you had a bunch of stuff in your inventory when I last removed you from my party. Huh. Easy to make the mistake, I suppose. Let's level up the Devil of Karok. Oh yeah, you're my mechanics and stealth character. Gotcha. 10's pretty good. Let's start doing the survival thing I've been doing lately. Rogue abilities. So many characters. The Crippling Strike is twice per encounter, hobble someone. Reckless Assault. Dive into battle. We're not even a melee character. Escape is deflection and reflection for a bit. Finishing blow. Twice per rest. Riposte. Melee only, but a cool ability otherwise. Coordinated positioning, switch place with a nearby target. Fearsome Strike. The rogue attempts to greatly hinder the opponent by targeting areas crucially important to their ability to fight. I'm not a big fan of once per rest abilities. Once per encounter, distraction smoke. Lowers all defenses by 6. Lowers engagement targets by 1, which most enemies can only engage with one target, right? So that basically means that they can't engage anymore. Effectively making it so the smoke cloud lets everyone move around without disengagement happening. Yeah. The next line says that. For most characters, this means they cannot hold any engagement, any enemies in engagement while distracted. Sap. Five-second stun, twice per encounter. Doesn't say anything about being melee. I think you can do it regardless. Shadow. This definitely feels like a rogue from WoW all of a sudden when you have riposte and sap and shadow step. Like, these are all very familiar words for me. By stepping through the between, a rogue is able to seemingly teleport across the battlefield for a few moments, returning to his or her starting position when the effect is ended. It's modal. So it's treated like it's an aura. I guess that's so that you can then toggle it off manually. But two things happen. One, you teleport away from the enemy, and then you get a 20% damage bonus for both melee and ranged. It's a good way to be able to temporarily escape, but you do teleport right back there, but the AI might not account for that, making it more effective. Persistent distraction. Whenever the rogue is contributing to the flanked affliction on the target, the victim is also distracted. I don't remember if flanked counts for ranged attacks, though. The primary is not that big of a deal. A full attack is when you attack with both weapons when you're doing dual wielding. Otherwise, a primary attack's just your main weapon. Which, if you're not using two weapons, it seems irrelevant, the distinction. So that doesn't really matter. Doesn't specify melee anywhere. So giving her 2 stuns per fight is pretty good, especially when she gets a really significant damage bonus against anybody who is in any way deterred. Including that stun. Shadowing Beyond allows the character to temporarily turn invisible. Enemies cannot detect invisible characters, and attacks made from invisibility automatically count as a sneak attack. But then attacking takes you out of that state. We've already gotten her gun style, I think. I think she's already immune to being dominated and poisoned, if I remember correctly. But I could be wrong. Yeah. It makes sense to have that kind of stealth ability. Get out of jail free card. I'm not picking them up enough so far. So let's make sure to grab one of them at least. You can maybe keep going. I'm tempted to spend the rest of the level slowly leveling everybody up because I did say to scale it, so we could be in trouble if I don't. Neat. A Whitestone Looter. I don't think we're gonna get along. I don't think we're gonna get along at all. You're still using per rest? Yeah. Important detail for that character. Let's review this, by the way, the weirdness of this. Once per rest. Just straight up summon console hot. Yeah. What the hell? And in the meantime, I just have a floating skull following me around. That's totally normal. Ow, why is there a trap by the bears? Why is that a thing? That's strange. God damn.
Lead the way.
I will.
Riona's breastplate. Oh, another one of these. Monk, Paladin, Enchanter. What's my chest? That might be a fitting replacement. Similar DR, fast recovery speed, big ol' stat bonuses, lose the frenzy, but as this thing keeps growing, it might be pretty cool. Huh. Three intellect is already a pretty strong start, although it might be suppressed. Currently exceptional, but it'll get better as we go further. This dark green enameled breastplate was the property of Riona, an adventurer who hailed from the Valian Republics, and found her calling running with expedition companies in the Deerwood. A small amount of copper chain extends into the breastplate for additional protection. Riona ended her career early after giving up her expedition group to a dragon in the White March in exchange for her life. Monk, Paladin, Enchanter. I already have 2 intellect from Unwavering Resolve. What is that? Could just switch it out. 2 intellect, 1 resolve. This doesn't give me any intellect. So the intellect's not wasted. I could just switch out the neck piece for anything else. Like the one that's good for enchanters, for example. Yeah. That's a cool look. That's not bad. Wondering if I should make the switch. Perhaps. I don't know. It's hard to say because the DR reduces his wound generation, but also what helps with wound generation also helps you die faster. It's kind of a hard call with that character a little bit. I need to sell all my stuff. I should have done that when I was there. Unwavering Resolve's a pretty good item. I'll probably give it to somebody else. But in the meantime, Voice of the Mountaintop, 20% chant area of effect. That's a good thing when your chant is burn everything. Burn, 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 everything burn.
Yeah.
Look at the size of that. So it currently reaches perfectly to the butt of that creature, basically. We take it off. And it does not. You get a kind of experience for how much bigger it is. It doesn't look like 20% though. It kind of feels like it's a smaller bonus than that, but I don't know. It's hard to judge those kinds of proportions. All I know is that's a very big area to be continually burning, so that's fun. It's intellect and resolve. So intellect affects area and duration of abilities. And resolve is more about concentration. Pretty good for this guy. Except how much does he have? +1 from the turban. +1 from a deer. So it's a pretty good necklace for him. Then we just want to switch out his turban for anything else. Because he's been wearing Kana's turban since like the beginning of the game. Of which there are not many options. I have a lot of dupes. Lower end perception's a little bit of an awkward fit. Do I even need perception? Seems to apply. Alright, well, points are points. Perception will help with accuracy at least. Let us begin the trek that is this whole process. The Deerwood, Part 1. Early Colonial History. No other land has such a wild and bloody recent history. From colony to Palatinate to Free Republic, the Deerwood has undergone a trial by fire to emerge as a powerful force in the Eastern Reach. Deerwood's history actually begins in Adir, in 2602 AI. Adir explorers returned from a journey across the ocean with tales of treasures they'd found. They'd discovered countless ruins scattered throughout the forests, as well as plains to the north of the trees that would be perfect for growing Vorlis. There was a problem. however. The locals were hostile, and there was potential for conflict. The Fairkonig of Edir, first king, knew that this was too good an opportunity to pass up, and sent more explorers to scout and map the area. Exploration continued over the next 20 years. Small groups of explorers traveled back and forth between Edir and the New World, with a handful of colonists setting up small camps to establish base for the explorers to work out of. Conflicts with the locals, who the Edirans learned are called the Glenfathans, were rare, but frequent enough for the Fairkonig to send a small squadron of guards to help protect his citizens. These guards established a central base on a river in the western section of the woods. Oops, fuck. This settlement would eventually become known as Deerford, upon which the modern-day village of the same name is presently built. Once that base was established, the first permanent Ediran settlements began north and west of the Bale River. Over the next 3 years, thousands of Edirans made the trek from Edir to this new land. The Glenfathans, who seemed to revere the ruins, scattered through the forest, caused a few problems with some of the settlements, especially those founded near the ruin themselves. These were easily taken care of by the colonists with the help of Imperial Guard. The Edirans, in order to further their foothold in the area, reduced the cost of production, and in an attempt to keep the Glenfathan population under control, started making slaves out of any Glenfathans captured during the uprisings. This resulted in a great increase in tension between the two groups. With the population of the area growing, an official governmental structure was established by the Fairkonig. He appointed several earls to preside over the land, and assigned them thanes to help run their territories, and they called the new Gremfram the Deerwood. Deerford remained the center of the Imperial Guard, but the settlement in Pearlwood Gulf, New Dunreed, was the true seat of the power of the area. Sitting at the edge of the ocean, forest, fertile farmland, and a river that runs from the coast to the White March, settlers flocked to the area, hoping to establish names for themselves. Edir began to spread across the new land. Straight up colonialism. No good elements of that, really. People literally already lived here, and you're like, but we want it. And that's the story of this place. It's, yep. Makes it a little hard to side with any of the people we've actually been interacting throughout the game as a result. And that's the culture of my own country, and many others, is this fun backstory of people already lived here. And we just pretend to have discovered the place that people lived in. It's worth noting that, like, it says their history begins blah blah blah. It's like, no. There was already people here when your history began for this area. You just ignore that.